I'm excited to share with you my thesis for why vintage magic is investable and why it's going places, then go through that thesis and I'm going to talk about how strong I think it is. In other words, I'm going to talk about why it's wrong and why vintage is not a great investment and not a great place to put your money. That being said, long story short, I'll skip to the end of the video right now. Do I think vintage is going to zero? No, absolutely not. Do I think it's going to go up in the future? Yes, I do. Do I think it's a great investment? No, I do not. Okay, great. Now, to dive in. First things first, am I a vintage investor? No. No, I'm not. I don't have a single real investable vintage card besides one that a friend gave me. Besides cards that are in decks, no dual lands, no Power 9, nothing that's shiny, or not shiny and old. The cards I mostly own and collect and play with and trade and buy and sell are new cards. I don't really have a dog in the vintage fight, which I think makes it easier to talk about this, because this isn't me talking about how I've got six figures and investments and like why I think it's going to go up. This is me talking about how I don't have six figures investments, but I've been doing some research and have met people and talked to people and got some numbers and why I think what I think. So what else? Yeah. And overall, I like to think this is an unbiased take. We're all biased in our own ways, but you understand where I'm coming from, right? So first off, the thesis for why vintage magic is investable, why it's going places, why the value will go up. Because it has gone up. If you take your mind back to 1993, it did not cost 10 grand to get a beat up Black Lotus, right? All of these cards that are vintage, that are considered vintage now, used to just be normal magic cards. And then fast forward 30 years, and they are scarce, they are desirable, they are rare, and they're expensive. In general, the price of these cards has gone up significantly, right? We're talking cards that used to be $5, $10, $15 that are now $100, $500, $1,000, $10,000, $30,000 cards. So there's something there. There's something to say that if the price has, 1,000x'd in the past 30 years, who's to say it's not going to 1,000x again the next 30 years? There's something to that. And maybe that's a little extreme, but perhaps the price will double or triple in the next 30 years. It's possible, right? And it makes sense. I'm not saying this is a bad thesis yet. Right now, I'm saying it's a good thesis. These cards are collectible. We see streamers like Hubby Wubby, who opens up revised booster packs in beta starter decks and these packs of cards that are expensive in the hopes of opening up original dual lands or Power 9 or other special cards. Get an Alpha Lightning Bolt, whatever. All cool stuff. So there is a level of desirability and collectability amongst vintage. Obviously, the cards are expensive for a reason, because people are willing to pay that. Right. So what else? Scarce. We talked about scarce. We talked about rare. There's something called the reserved list. In case you're not familiar, like, oh my gosh, who is it? Richard Garfield, when he did his interview with the professor, he was like, what's the reserved list? Wild. But anyways, in case you didn't know, like Richard Garfield, the reserved list is a commitment that Wizards of the Coast made many years ago to not reprint certain cards. The idea was that they could keep the game collectible and investable if certain cards were scarce and on the reserve list, with a promise to never be reprinted. That promise was semi-broken in the year 2022 when, for Magic 30th edition, Wizards of the Coast printed proxies of reserved list cards. But we're going to kind of ignore that for now. That was a crazy thing, and that did hurt vintage prices, and vintage prices kind of haven't gone up since then. But I digress. They have not reprinted playable, legitimate copies of the original dual lands or the Power 9 or whatever. Just fake copies. SMH. Right. So they're scarce. They're rare. They're not going to be reprinted, probably. playable. This is the third part of the thesis, by the way. There's 3 parts of the thesis. First part, first to magic. I'm looking at my notes here. Second part is they're scarce, they're reserved list. And third part is they're playable. We have original dual lands. These are playable cards. Let me share my screen. Playable cards. People love to bling out their commander decks, and what better way to bling out a commander deck than throwing in a revised dual land? Is it going to make your deck better? Not really. But are you cooler than all of your friends if you play with a tropical island? Yes. I'm just going to call it. You are the coolest of all your friends. Please subscribe and like for more content in the future. Right. So, a lot of playable cards, a lot of people that play Magic. And as the player base in Magic grows, we should see these cards in demand and prices go up. And in some ways, we have seen that happen. Because like I said, the prices of all these cards is astronomically higher than what it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Right. Okay, so that's the thesis for why vintage Magic is a great investment. They are the first cards in Magic, which makes them special. They'll always have a special value. They are scarce. They are reserved list. They are not being reprinted. There's only a finite number of copies of revised Tundras. And as those cards get destroyed or played with or just put in binders or whatever, there's just less and less copies in the universe. And they are desirable. They're desirable to play with. They're desirable to own and collect. So, why does this thesis fail, in my opinion? And now, let me clarify. I'm not arguing that reserved list cards are going to go to 0. I'm also not arguing that their price is going to go down. I don't think their price is going to go down for a lot of reasons. Namely, is because they really are desirable. There's a lot of people that would love to buy these dual lands, but the prices are not going up, and they haven't gone up in many years. And let me share my screen. What are we looking at? We're looking at Underground Sea. This is the eBay. Let me move my screen over a little bit. This is the eBay chart for Underground Sea prices. And they've done a decent job filtering out all the bullcrap proxy cards. Oh yeah, this is pretty good. The price just hasn't really gone up the past 3 years, since 2023. This is Badlands. Also, price hasn't gone up the past 3 years. Real quick, pause. Some people are going to be like, well, Nick, why aren't you talking about Gaia's Cradle or Sarah Sanctum or all these other reserve list cards that have gone up? The elephant in the room is pre-modern. Pre-modern, in case you didn't know, is a player-created Magic format where you have to play with old cards. And the fact that you have to play with old cards and that the format's popular enough has driven the price of quite a few vintage cards up. Very cool. That's cool. I'm very happy for all my friends who, had a bunch of Gaia's Cradles and the prices have gone up. And I'm very sad for my friends that wish that they owned Gaia's Cradles and now they're less and less obtainable now and becoming less and less attainable every day. But the thing is about pre-modern, like this is a little bit of a cop-out, but I hope you see the point I'm making, is that pre-modern is not part of the thesis for why vintage Magic is going to go up, right? The thesis isn't, we're going to make Magic formats that focus on old cards, and that is going to shoot up the prices of Black Lotuses and the dual lands and Gaia's Cradles. That has happened, and that is really cool. And perhaps like I'm not being fair to kind of ignore it, but I'm kind of ignoring it. And yeah, so why are we looking at original dual lands? Because I feel like dual lands fit into the thesis quite well. These are desirable cards. These are powerful cards. They are collectible and desirable, and their price has not gone up in the past 3 years. I guess we see a slight upward trend for the Underground Sea, but for these other ones, for Badlands, for Taiga, we do not see an upward trend. We just see relatively flat over the past 3 years. What was I looking at here? Oh, Black Lotus, Black Lodi, Black Lotuses, a gaggle of Black Lodi. And the prices here are quite bizarre, although one sold this year just a couple months ago for 22 grand. Very cool. Black Lotus. So what's the point? I guess I'll get a little bit cut to the chase. This is a Bloomborough collector booster box. They sell now for a cool $950. The most recent one that was purchased for about $950 or $900. It's not clear to me based on what TCG Player is showing me, but somewhere around $900 to $950. This is an Underground Sea on TCG Player. I recommend you buy your Underground Seas on eBay, but alas, people do buy Underground Sea on TCG Player. We see that a number sold May 25th, one sold on May 31st, and we see one sold on June 10th for around the $950. It's also still not exactly clear, but somewhere around the $800, $900, $950 mark. More people have bought Bloomborough collector boxes than have bought Underground Sea. And the point that I'm trying to make is that there has been a huge influx of new players into Magic the Gathering in the past year. They have come from Final Fantasy and from Spider-Man and from Avatar. They've also just organically found Magic to be a fun game and have come because of Secrets of Strixhaven or Lorne Eclipsed or Edge of Eternities. But a lot have come in from Universes Beyond. And we have seen a rise in prices over the past year of almost everything. I did a video about this a couple weeks ago, but almost everything has just shot up in price. And I believe that it's because of these Universe Beyond new Magic players. Now, except for, like, everything's shot up in price except for these dual lands and vintage cards in general. Now, yes, pre-modern has shot up prices, but the cards that aren't bangers in pre-modern have been flat. Why aren't the people who love Final Fantasy and getting into Magic going back to buy original dual lands? Well, the answer is they are, but they're not going back to buy them as quickly as people are selling them. And so the price remains flat. That's interesting. That's fascinating. I would not have anticipated that. 5-10 years ago, I would not have said that, there's going to be a equilibrium in the market where there's enough people selling their Tundras, their revised Tundras, that it will match the amount of people buying revised Tundras in the year 2026 when there's all these new players. It's surprising. It's interesting. And it doesn't bode well for the thesis that vintage Magic cards are going to go up, up, up in value because of the demand and because of the scarcity and because they're playable. It's just not panning out. And that's interesting. I would love to see, I wish I could know the overlap of people that are getting into Magic because of Universes Beyond that are getting into pre-modern. I imagine it's quite low. The thing is that Wizards of the Coast has every incentive to get you interested in what is coming out next. Because Wizards of the Coast does not make any money from what came out, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. They make money from the stuff that's come out in the past few years, the stuff that they're actively printing. And I think Wizards of the Coast has done a really good job at pushing people towards what's new, making shinier, specialer, more interesting in a sense, new sets every couple months to keep people interested and keep people ready to buy. People are excited about The Hobbit. Hobbit coming out in a couple months, I think. And people are ready. People are saving their money. They could be buying revised dual lands. They could be buying on an extreme sense, a Power 9 or other collectible cards, but people are more interested in buying collector booster boxes that they can open and have an experience with than they are with buying these vintage cards. What does this mean for vintage? Is it going to zero? No. There is extreme demand for vintage. It's just not demand that's outpacing the supply. That's why the price is flat. And if the price went down, if for whatever reason the supply outpaced the demand, I believe that there is a plethora of individuals, myself included, that the prices of certain vintage, especially playable vintage cards, went down. They become significantly more attractive and people will buy those things up. So it's not that they're going to zero. It's not that they're undesirable. The question is there going to be a catalyst in the future, something like pre-modern, that is going to ignite demand in such a way that it outstretches supply for vintage dual lands, for Power 9, for other reserved list cards? Is there going to be a catalyst that's going to help demand outstretch the supply? It's not clear to me that there is. There has been a lot of hype and demand and interest and speculation and conversation about the new Magic products that are coming out, and collector booster boxes and collectability and soul stones and whatever. There has not been the same level of excitement to any degree about vintage and going back in time to the vintage stuff. People are going back in time to Bloomborough, but they're not going back in time to Revised. And so, in conclusion, do I think vintage will go up? Yes, I do. I think eventually it will go up. I think eventually demand will outpace supply in a sense, in a way that will increase price, but not in a way that makes it feel very investable. The way that Lord of the Rings collector booster boxes have just tripled in price over the past couple of years, the way that Bloomborough and Duskmourn and Foundations and all these products have come out, and you could just have them sitting on your shelf and just make a bunch of money doing nothing. And you contrast that with a lot of these vintage staples. I mean, Revised dual lands are incredible cards, in my opinion. They're playable in Commander. They are showpieces of a collection. They're iconic. And the way that they have fallen behind modern collector booster boxes when it comes to return on your investment over the past years is boggling, but something we should take seriously. So, I will not be investing in vintage. It's not something I recommend. Now, do I think that vintage cards, could there be a pre-modern like thing that catalyzes and shoots the price of these things up? Yeah, absolutely. And if you have vintage and you believe, then carry on, brother, keep going. But if you've got $100,000 and you're just thinking to yourself, I want to spend this on Magic, what is going to get me the best ROI in 5 years, 10 years? I wouldn't recommend vintage. I would recommend other things like collector booster boxes in general. So let me know how I'm wrong. I'd love to know what you think of my thesis for review. The thesis for why I think most people argue that vintage Magic is going to is a good investment is that it's the first of Magic, it's special, it's collectible, it's scarce, and that for many things it's playable or just collectible. It's something that people desire greatly, and that people will want to go back to the first of Magic. That was a little bit of scattershot. You get the sense. And then my points for why I believe this thesis fails is that the first of Magic, it's not clear that people are going back in time and really interested in what is the first of Magic. It's not clear that the Revised dual lands and the Power 9 and other vintage staples are being desired faster than they're being supplied to the market. People are selling these things just as quickly as people are buying them. And with the influx of Magic players, there should be more people interested in vintage than there is. And it suggests that the new people are just not interested in vintage. And it's not clear that they will be anytime in the future. Scarcity does not matter if the demand isn't there, right? And so even though we have a limited quantity of all these old cards, if people aren't desiring it and buying it, then it just doesn't matter. And even for the playable cards, something I wrote down, but I didn't really bring up, even for the playable cards, they're not really being played. You see that, people just are having a good time with Commander without Gaia's Cradles and Sarah's Sanctums and Revised Dual Lands. And of course, the Power 9 are banned in Commander, except for Turnabout. No, sorry, wrong card. Anyway, so let me know what you think. Let me know how I'm wrong. I do read the comments. I don't always reply and things. If you're really passionate about this, I'd love to hear an email. If you got like your arguments for like, this is my thesis for why I think vintage is going up, I think that'd be a fascinating thing. I'd love to read, or watch or listen to or whatever, if you make videos. So thank you. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. And oh yeah, super thanks to my patrons, to Kevin, Benjamin, and Zen. Hope I said that right. Zen has a channel, opens up magic products. Huge shout out. And I'll give a link in the description below. So go check that out. It's pretty cool stuff. I enjoy watching people open up magic product. I find it calming. I find it interesting, especially when people are opening up magic product just for their own collection. There's something that's so endearing about people doing something they love and engaging in something they love and seeing them kind of reap the rewards of their labor through opening booster packs that equate to a semi-kids card game. Anyways, it's good times. Thanks all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.